What if the biggest threats to your happiness and health after 70 aren't accidents, illness, or bad luck, but quiet decisions you made years ago without realizing where they would lead? Most people over 65 believe that aging problems suddenly appear late in life. But here's the mystery. Researchers keep finding that the same 5 mistakes show up again and again in millions of seniors across the United States, almost like a script playing on repeat. The danger isn't that these mistakes exist. It's that most people don't recognize them until the damage feels permanent. Here's an early clue. According to the National Institute on Aging, many of the strongest predictors of poor health after 70 aren't medical diagnoses. They're behaviors, patterns, habits that seemed harmless at the time. That should immediately raise a question. If these mistakes are so common, when do they actually begin? To answer that, we have to rewind to early adulthood. In your 20s and 30s, life trains you to prioritize productivity over preservation. You trade sleep for work, movement for convenience, relationships for efficiency. The cause is cultural pressure. The effect is adaptation. Your body and brain compensate, and because you feel fine, you assume there's no cost. Long-term studies like the Framingham Heart Study later revealed that this is when the first mistake quietly forms. Assuming resilience means immunity. It doesn't. It just delays consequences. As people move into their 40s, the second phase begins. Almost invisibly, recovery slows. Muscle mass begins to decline at about 1% per year after age 40. According to CDC data, nearly half of Americans in their 40s already show early signs of chronic inflammation. But instead of adjusting, most people normalize fatigue and stiffness. They sit more, they socialize less, they tell themselves they'll fix it later. This is where the second mistake takes shape. Ignoring small signals because they aren't painful yet. The third shift happens after 70, and most people completely misunderstand it. They believe decline is now inevitable, so they lower expectations. They stop challenging their balance, their memory, their routines. Research from Johns Hopkins shows that older adults who expect decline experience it faster. This belief-driven behavior change is powerful. The mistake here isn't aging, it's surrendering agency. The brain interprets reduced challenge as reduced need and begins to downshift. Then comes the breaking point, when the damage finally becomes visible: a fall, a medical scare, a sudden wave of loneliness, financial strain from rising healthcare costs. According to Medicare data, the average older adult with mobility loss spends thousands more per year on care. This is when people realize something is wrong, but by now, multiple systems are already weakened. This is where the fourth mistake shows itself: reacting late instead of adjusting early. The fallout spreads quickly. Physical decline limits social life. Reduced social life increases depression risk. Depression worsens physical outcomes. The Harvard study of adult development found that social isolation is as harmful to longevity as smoking. Money becomes tighter. Independence feels fragile. And people begin to define themselves by what they've lost instead of what they can still influence. That mindset itself accelerates decline. So, what's the fifth mistake? It's the one almost everyone makes at this stage: following outdated advice. Take it easy. Don't overdo it. Act your age. Seniors are told to rest their way to health. But data from the American College of Sports Medicine shows that strength training and balance work even after 80 significantly improve quality of life. Rest without stimulus weakens systems faster. The fix people try doing less often becomes the problem. Here's where the suspense resolves. Those 5 huge mistakes aren't dramatic. They're subtle: assuming resilience equals immunity, ignoring early signals, lowering expectations too soon, waiting for a crisis to change, and trusting old advice that no longer fits modern aging science. These patterns repeat across millions of Americans because they feel reasonable at the time. But here's the twist most seniors never hear: aging research has changed. In the 1990s, Scientists believed decline was mostly unavoidable. Today, neuroplasticity research shows the brain adapts into the 80s. Muscle responds to training at any age. Social engagement rewires emotional resilience. The benefit of change hasn't expired. The window just narrows when ignored. So, what can you do today if you're over 60? 3 direct actions. First, challenge at least one system daily: balance, strength, or learning without waiting for motivation. Second, redesign your routines around energy, not habit. Shorter walks done consistently outperform long ones done rarely. Third, protect social connection as seriously as you protect medical appointments. Here's the warning based on evidence. Once isolation and inactivity become the default, reversing them after 75 becomes much harder but not impossible. And here's the open thought I want you to hold until the next video. What if happiness in old age isn't about avoiding mistakes, but about catching them early enough to change course? If this made you pause and reflect, do like this video and share it with someone who might need a wake-up call, and subscribe, because in the next chapter, we're breaking down the small daily habits that quietly protect happiness and health long after 70.